Welcome to Movie for You. Today we are going to explain an American science fiction action movie called Total Recall. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. In the beginning it is shown that the Earth has been destroyed by chemical warfare. In the 21st century there are only 2 territories left in the entire globe where people can survive because the habitable space has been compromised due to chemical radiation. One is the United Federation of Britain UB, and the other is a place called the Colony, which is in Australia. The colony suffers from poverty while the UB is more advanced, which is why the people from the colony travel to the UB to work and earn. Since Britain and Australia are on opposite ends of the Earth, a gravitational elevator named the Fall has been built as a means of transportation. We then see a man named Douglas running away from a robot police team with a woman as his partner. He tries to fight them off, but in the end they captured him as the woman takes a fall. Suddenly Douglas wakes up and realizes that this was all a dream and that he has never seen that woman in his life. Douglas lives in the colony with his loving ancient wife, and like many others he also works at the UB. The following day Douglas leaves for work with his colleague Harry. They both takes the Fall to reach the UB. Douglas and Harry watch an ad on the screen about a company named Total Recall, which claims to implant good memories from once past into their mind so that they can feel happiness in their life once again. Later, in the locker room of their workplace, Douglas and Harry debates about the Total Recall. Douglas wants to try the good memory implant, but Harry stops him because he thinks operating on the brain is a bad and risky idea. Douglas feels like he's being stalked by Harry on purpose. Later, while working with another colleague, Douglas's influence to change his mind about Total Recall when his colleague shares his positive experience with him. This is how Douglas ends up going to the recall office. After his work shift there, he is greeted by a technician named Bob. Bob allows him to pick any character he wishes to have good memories with. Douglas decides to become an agent in his memories, but as soon as they begin operating on his mind there is a weird glitch causing a machinery to stop working. This inconvenience allows Bob to assume that Douglas is a secret agent in real life. He finds him threatening, so he takes out his gun and aims to shoot him in the chest. Suddenly a SWAT team shows up and arrests Douglas, but he somehow manages to open an attack and take down the entire team on his own. Douglas is confused to see himself adapting sharp reflexes and great strength. He goes back home to tell his wife about the recent incident. When he tells her about his visit to the recall center, she becomes mad and starts attacking Douglas. Douglas tames her and holds her at gunpoint. While still confused about his new fighting skills, he begins questioning her about who she really is. The wife reveals that she is a UB secret agent who has been sent to spy on him. She also reveals that she entered his life 6 weeks ago and pretended to be his wife. This only confuses Douglas further because as far as he remembers he and his wife have been together for the past 7 years. However, his memories with Lori have been replanted by the recall experiment. Douglas is forced to knock out his wife and headed out to find more about his current state. On the street, Douglas receives a video call from his colleague on his hand device. Douglas does not remember him, but he ensures that he knows him and gives him the address of a safe, saying he asked for it. Since Douglas has lost the sense of reality, he decides to reach the safe, hoping he might find a helpful clue. Douglas finally reaches the place where he finds the safe. He opens it and finds a camera that has a recorded message on it. Douglas is extremely shocked to see the footage of him, which is stating that soon his memory would be erased, and to save his life he would have to go to the UB where he has a safe home. He takes out some reserve cash from the bag and disguises himself as one of the men whose passports were in the safe. Douglas reaches the UB, but he gets detected by the scanners since he was on the agent's wanted list put by his wife Lori. As they were about to detain him, a girl named Melina shows up in her flying car and helps him escape the agents in the car. Douglas notices that Melina is the girl from his dreams and becomes shocked. Melinda takes him to the house which Douglas had already heard from the old footage of himself. There he finds another recorded clip of himself. The man in the clip reveals that his real name is Carl and he's an agent who works for the UB. Douglas is told that before his memory was erased he was working for the chancellor of the UB, who demanded his assistance in killing all those of workers and their leader Matthias, who speaks against the chancellor. Now that Douglas has found out about his reality, he feels terrible working for the chancellor since he has worked with the UB workers and knows that they are not evil, but the chancellor himself is the bad guy. He feels terrible knowing that he was working for the wrong guy. Melina shows up and further clears things out for Douglas. She feels that all the attacks on him were attempted by the Chancellor. It is his way of taking revenge on the people who go against him and then blaming it on the people that are already against him. Molina tells Douglas that he found out that the Chancellor was a bad guy and turned against him. The Chancellor didn't appreciate the betrayal, so instead he wiped out his memory and placed it with a good one where he was a common colony worker for 7 years who was living with the love of his life. This suggests that Douglas' mind was already planted by a good dream, and when he unknowingly went to the recall to implant dreams, things became worse for him. He lost the sense of reality on top of a race memory. Molina also informed him that the Chancellor is building an army of robots to attack the colony and permanently rule over the poor and weak people. The old recorded clip further leads that there is a code in Douglas' mind through which he can destroy the entire robot army, but he has forgotten everything from the past and has a hard time remembering the code. Melinda then steps forward and shows him the same bullet scar which he has. She feels that she was his lover, and before the Chancellor sent his robots to erase his memory, she was with him. They both were running away when they were shot by the same bullet in the hands. Douglas then realizes that Molina isn't lying, since he used to see the same scene in his dreams repetitively. Those were actually flashbacks from his past before the two can escape the place. Douglas is greeted by Harry, who was armed. Harry tells him that he's stuck inside the memory created by the recall and also says that he warned him not to go to the recall center. He convinces Douglas by saying that he is a colony worker for the past 7 years and shows in his wife Lori, who was outside with the agents. Harry commands Douglas to shoot Molina if he wants to get out of the stuck memory. Douglas sees a tear rolling down Molina's eyes and realizes that Harry is working with Lori, who was after him. He shoots Harry in the head and runs away. Lori comes after the two, but they manage to escape the place through life and reach Matthias's headquarters. Matthias is also Molina's father, while he's financing and looking after the alliance he has built against a Chancellor. He has also advanced himself with technology. He asks Douglas to sit on a special chair where he can process and find the code by bringing back his erased memory. Sadly, there is no code found. Matthews realizes that the code to eliminate the Chancellor's robot army was just bait that he unintentionally took. His suspicion turns out to be true when the Chancellor, Lori and his army breaches the headquarters and start killing everyone present there. The Chancellor finally reaches Douglas and Matthias, where he reveals that it was Douglas' idea to erase his memory and put a word out there that there has been a code planted inside his head that can destroy the robot army, so that Matthias would find ways to have Douglas inside his super hidden headquarters, which was unknown to the Chancellor and his agents, so that they could trace Douglas and kill all the rebellions at once. In the end, he kills Matthias and asked his agents to bring back Douglas' erased memory. Now that his mission is accomplished, he says that he wants his good old special agent Carl back, but Douglas no longer wants to work for the Chancellor, and nor does he remember anything about the plan. He refuses to reset his previously erased memory, which is not appreciated by the Chancellor. He finds this act of Douglas as a betrayal, so he tells his agents to forcefully bring back his old memory anyway. Luckily, an old friend of Douglas is a part of the mission to replant his erased memories. He saves Douglas from a horrible process and helps him escape, since he knows Douglas was being held against his will. On the other hand, the Chancellor commands his agents to take the robot army straight to the colony and start terrorizing and attacking the public. All of them head to the colony. Through the fall, Douglas finds out that they have taken Molina hostage, so he comes up with a plan to rescue her and end the Chancellor's final act. With one stone, he manages to enter the fall, where he plants bombs to kill everyone present on the fall, but before activating, he goes to save Molina first. He finally finds Molina trapped in a separate cabin. He fights the guards and saves Molina, but the Chancellor's robot shows up and take Douglas to the Chancellor's cabin. There, Douglas and the Chancellor had an epic fight. At first, the Chancellor has the upper hand. He hurts Douglas with all this force. He twists his arm and puts him in a lock, but his attention diverts when he looks back at the exploding bombs that Douglas had planted all over the lift. This allows Douglas to get the upper hand. He beats up the Chancellor with all this force. By the end, the entire lift is caught on fire. It stops working and gets sucked into the ground. Douglas and Molina jumps off the falling lift and successfully land on the ground. When Douglas opens his eyes, he finds Molina in front of him, but when he looks at her hand, there is no sign in the bullet scar, which Molina and Douglas both had. This infuriates Douglas and causes him to shoot Molina, and finds out that it was his wife Lori in disguise. He is thankful to see Molina walking down from the other ambulance, and the two hugs each other. Meanwhile, the colony is free from the Chancellor. and the UB's politics suggesting they no longer have to work for them and stay poor. On the other hand, Douglas realizes that the UB branded tattoo on his arm is missing from his forearm, which puts a thought in his head if he is still implanted inside some real memory, or if is this actual reality. However, he chooses to not lose his sanity and accept this is reality since he has Melina as his true and faithful lover by his side in the current situation. Subscribe to see more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.